Well, your comments caused me to think about something else, and that's sustainability. And what kills sustainability? Nothing kills it as quick as failure, right? And I don't have enough note pages to count the times where somebody has implemented, let's say, a reading program. That's your background, with perfect fidelity, and it doesn't work. Well, how do you implement something with fidelity and it doesn't work? Well, it's quite possible that that particular program or initiative wasn't evidence-based for the way you wanted to use it, or with whom you wanted to use it for. Then when it doesn't work, I hear MTSS doesn't work, because they're equating MTSS with a particular intervention. So it is important, the comments that you made about flexibility, problem solving. If something doesn't work, it's okay. Two questions that drive my moral imperative as an educator are you happy with your data? And is every classroom one in which you would put your own flesh and blood? And if the answer to either of those questions is no, we have work to do. So what really, to me, helps sustainability are a couple of things. One is this flexibility you talked about. If it doesn't work, we have a problem-solving process that's part of MTSS. All we do is go to the problem-solving process. Good educators, good leaders, their strongest skill is their ability to problem solve when things don't go the right way, as opposed to go, I don't know what to do, or go back to the strategic plan that didn't work the first time. Problem solving is our greatest skill. And the other thing about sustainability for me is the DNA of MTSS, the DNA of a district, cannot lie within people. People come and go. I'm sure everybody watching this as school and district leaders know what happens when you take a principal who is really good at turning a school around, put that principal in a school, that turns around in 3 years, and then she or he leaves, and in 3 years the school is back to where it was because the DNA of the success of that was in a person. So sustainability for me is in two areas. One, if you're going to do MTSS, you have to take a look at your district policies and procedures and ensure that those policies and procedures that the school board has passed, the policies anyway, are aligned with MTSS. You can't have policies that put a building principal at risk for doing something and it doesn't work. And the other part of this ties to problem solving. When the district itself has the capacity to do this work, they also have the capacity to keep moving forward by problem solving and changing their way of work.
Well, and I think on the problem solving front, I think it's not enough to know that the initiative or the intervention is working or not working. It's not a dichotomous variable, right? So it's this idea that we have to know, yes, it's working, but for whom is it working? How well is it working?
And for whom isn't it working?
Right.
Exactly.
And is it enough to actually close the gap for students? And then more importantly, under what conditions does it actually work? So we know how to replicate those or adjust those as we go through the problem solving process.
And your point about for whom it's working and not, going back to Tier 1 and universal or general education, the standards aligned, standards-based instruction is ideally suited for a multi-tiered system, because the purpose of Tier 1 is to establish the scope, sequence, and pacing of instruction. That Tier 2 and Tier 3 specially designed instruction all have to hook their wagon to. And this reinforces that in a multi-tiered system of supports, you have a way of ensuring that Title I, that behavioral programs, that programs for English learners, that programs for kids getting intensive instruction, that they're not out there siloed, that the IEP for a special ed kid isn't some remote document, but rather every one of the people in the different tiers, Tier 2 and Tier 3, and of course specially designed instruction through all of it, they're all on the same page. And that page is standards aligned, scope, sequence, and pacing of instruction. So we go back to the importance of Tier 1, and if all of that is happening, this will sustain itself.